I thought I'd start with a poem from Stonehouse. I think he's my favorite poet, I think. He was in the 14th century China, really so deeply nourished and committed to the hermit life. But, was not exclusively a hermit. He got called into responsibility at the temple quite a bit and sort of would go back and forth. And mm, something very beautiful about so much of his poetry. So here's one. A thatched hut, blue mountains, green streams. Visits by now are up to me. 2 or 3 peach trees and plum trees in bloom, green and yellow fields of vegetables and wheat. I sit all night in bed, listening to rain. I open my paper window and doze off watching clouds. Nothing is better than being free, but getting free isn't luck. Nothing is better than being free, but getting free isn't luck. I think there's something, one of the things that's so potent about doing a self retreat, many folks being in, their apartments, their homes, their houses, is a sense that you're you probably had some moment like that, during the last 6 days. It may have been fleeting, or if not this retreat and a past retreat, or just the sense that like this isn't something that has to happen outside of our homes. Going back to the first talk, right? This leaving home, coming home, our native land, that actually within your own bed, listening to rain, we can touch into the deepest freedom, right? And an appreciation of that, opening our windows to the outside world, wherever we are. Um, and this sense, and I think it's like that most retreats, we hope, and I think that we really do our best to try to instill this dual understanding and appreciation that it is possible, right? This freedom is possible, and any one of us can do it. That um, and any one of us, and every single one of us has had some moment of experience where something that might normally be very difficult or normally very jarring was acceptable, right? To some degree or another. Maybe it just wasn't so bad, and maybe it was totally okay, right? Sensation in the knee, sensation in the back, a memory that might otherwise be difficult, or an idea that would normally hook us into some action that didn't, you know. And that we see that it's like, oh, it's just when it's the cultivation of these certain qualities of mind and the certain capacities and all that we're doing, that this does lead to that ability, right? And that if you can experience it at one moment with one object, that it is possible with all moments and all objects, right? There's no difference between the enlightened mind, the fully enlightened mind, and the mind in those moments that you have had the experience of. It's just that it's the work has been done so that it happens in every moment, right? And that no sense experience hooks and tangles the heart. The mind doesn't build entanglements and build prisons around each experience as it arises and passes. So it's for us, it's so important, especially, coming out of retreat. And sometimes you can start to get into a process of evaluation and self-evaluation and judgment of, oh, we didn't make the most of our time, or we didn't do this, or we didn't achieve anything, or whatever. And it's like that we find some grounding in that sense that, no, this is possible. You know that it's possible. There's some part of you that is confident that actually it is, and it is within this mind and body that you have to work with, that it's possible, not some other condition, not some other story, some other person that you need to be in order to become awakened, that it's actually through this being that it happens. And then on the other side of that, we really hope that it's also instilled, and this is easier, that it's really hard. That we don't have to do a lot to make that obvious, I think, to most folks, right? That it's like, this is not just gonna happen. You're not gonna just get awakened. Um, Enlightenment, full enlightenment, it's not luck. Like like Stonehouse says, like getting free isn't luck. It is hard, and it takes so much work and so much patience and so much everything, everything that we're doing, all of the lists that have been named and the many that are unnamed, um, that it is a very monumental task, and so worthy, and totally possible, and so beautiful and so rewarding and so enriching, and powerfully humbling, right? It's like, oh, the when we sit down and we just really see the depths of the entanglement that we are in, and the fear and the contraction and all of these things that are so pervasive and so persistent. Our hope is that it's humbling, not humiliating, not depressing, but humbling, and also a stepping stone for, yeah, for compassion, for ourselves and others, to really see what we're all up against, and how few of us have been given any tools, in our lives to be able to work with emotions and work with pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral feeling tone, and how the mind clings and how the mind protects itself and tries to create stability and security. That as crazy as the world is, there is this understanding of like, wow, everyone really is doing the best they can, which is pretty far out if you think about it. And that it's like, oh yeah, with the desire, with the wanting to be free, and with the training and the tools and the qualities of heart and mind that build over time, that it's possible, that we can get free. There's a sutta where someone asked the Buddha, you know the this generation is they said, this generation is entangled in a tangle, who can untangle the tangle? His answer, it's very simple in this sutta: a person established on virtue, wise, developing mind and wisdom, or renunciate, ardent and discreet, they can untangle this tangle. Established in virtue, wise, developing mind and wisdom, a renunciate, ardent and discreet, they can untangle this tangle. And so I think there's always this call of reckoning, with our lives and with our past actions, and where we are right now, and our stories, and what responsibility we feel moving out into the world and back into our more familiar lives. Where do we have the sense of being able to develop these qualities in our lives, and to understand that the cultivation of virtue, of ethical conduct, of the commitments that we took at the beginning of this practice. Of course, those can just blossom even more in our daily lives, right? The commitment to non-harming, to caring, um, to not creating harm in the world outside of ourselves or with ourselves because of the forces of greed, hatred, and delusion in our own hearts, right? And through that restraint and the carefulness of our actions, establishing a deeper and deeper foundation on our own goodness, right? A faith that's in our capacity, rooted in our goodness, not in our faults, not in our uh, the places where we feel not yet capable, right? It's not we're trying to deny those places, but we also see that those places can consume us, and that our identification with our inadequacies and our neuroses can be so much stronger than the healthy identification of qualities that are beneficial and the responsibility and goodness that we inherit in our own hearts and minds when we do kind acts, when we refrain from harming, when we're generous, right? As has been spoken about today already. Some it's like this generosity, dana, sila, bhavana, right? The generosity of our hearts, right? Of it's you know it should go without saying. This is not just about financial generosity, right? This is like, where are we letting the goodness and the beautiful qualities of our mind blossom in the world, right? Be of help to others, be of support in our relationships, our families, our communities, our world. Where are we willing to stretch and um, be agents of goodness, right? Of kindness, of morality, of benefit to the world. So through that offering of our goodness, through the restraint around our harmful potentialities, that yeah, we develop the sense of we are developed in virtue, right? We recognize how much of that can be done in our daily lives and in the world that we are accustomed to living in. And then we also have to see, right, that there is something about these retreat conditions of seclusion that allow for an investigation in the mind, uh, that allow for the cultivation of wisdom through understanding, through uh, this very subtle and powerful practice, that it requires some protection, right? That actually the conditions of this retreat that allow for this are rare in the world, right? And even more rarely are they just given to you, right? Some people have that kind of good fortune where it's like there's a lot moving, helping in their lives, moving them towards the sense of seclusion, but most don't have that, right? And there's varying degrees of challenge in terms of, wow, how can we create more and more supportive conditions for this bhavana, right? The mind cultivation, the quietude, and where do we take some responsibility for that, right? Where do we see that we have a momentum of responsibilities in our life and in the world and in our families and relationships that we've inherited from past action, ours and others? And where do we take responsibility for how much of that we continue to unfold, um, to keep bearing? Where do we need to let go? Where do we betray our own path and our own spiritual practice and our own potential for awakening because we can't say no? Because we prioritize other people's needs of us, other people's desires of us, of our lives more than our own deeper calling. And where do we find some place of authority around that and taking responsibility to sometimes it's much of the times it's rarely do we make drastic 180-degree turns in our lives. Sometimes that can happen, but a lot of times, especially in this path, it's like it's small adjustments. It's slow, you know, training of our families to let us go on retreat. Like that's just that piece, right? Where it's like when you first start doing this, those, many of you know, it's like people in your world are not into you taking off for 6 days, for 10 days. They don't understand it. Maybe over time they start to appreciate that, like, some of the qualities that you come out with are of benefit to them, right? They actually like the version of you that sits a little more than the version of you that goes a year without being on retreat, and well, maybe they just find happiness in your happiness, if we're lucky. But so there is a sense of like, okay, you can start to work on some of these relationships that allow for deeper seclusion, more distance, more space. um, but there are, of course, many other levels of responsibility and jobs and financial. One of the interesting things about this new reality we find ourselves in is, of course, we love being able to go on physical retreats in person with people, but the finances of that are very difficult for individuals, for these retreat centers. No, none of these retreat centers like are like have people like getting really rich off of them, or I don't know. None of the ones I'm familiar with, I'll say. Uh, it's like it's expensive, to like mow the lawn on a piece of land. It's expensive to like keep a staff going, and so it's expensive to go on retreat at a lot of these facilities. And there's something for sure in self-retreat, and with this, it's like we hope can be more accessible to more people also, because just financially, it's more viable. But there are, of course, many considerations we have. We many many of you have probably heard us at different times talk about the Myatang Sayadaw. Sometimes we used to call him like the Happy Sayadaw. He was a monk who lived a few monasteries down from the Chazwa monastery that we hold this yearly retreat at. That Stephen spoke a little bit about how, 20 some odd years ago, starting this uh, retreat there, that was like a fusion retreat between the monastics and the Western lay teachers. And at some point, I think Michelle met Sayadaw. 25 years, is that what you're saying? Yeah, 25 years at Chazwa. And so this monk, and like I can do this because we're like technologically advanced. He looks very serious right there. This is the Myatang Sayadaw, Happy Sayadaw. Here you can see. And that's um, a woman who was our translator for many years, Dakinu Luen, who would come along with us. She's Burmese, lives in Singapore. He was really amazing. I think we would all say one of the most really clearly liberated minds we'd ever encountered. Really so gentle, so clear, so serious, and so buoyant as well. He, I know there's a few folks who came to the Chazwa retreat last year and the previous year, and you maybe have heard when he passed away. He he just had his body put in a glass casket that is up on the hill above this whole area of the Sagaing Hills. And last year we were able to actually bring all the yogis there at the end of the retreat, and um, his instructions were just to leave his casket there as visible as his body deteriorated, so that people could go and practice that practice of that's in the suttas, that's in the Satipatthana Sutta, the charnel ground meditation of watching a body decompose. It's very powerful, very intense, of course, and very moving. He still has his sunglasses on up there. 5 years later, those same those same sunglasses they left on him. You can still see his robes, but mostly bones at this point. And a few years before he passed away, we were having a conversation with him. I can't remember the direction of it entirely, but we were talking about wanting to get free, and he said, "Well, then you should just move here. You should come here and just practice in Watchet." And it's sort of this like hedging, like, yeah, yeah, that'd be great. But we do have a lot of responsibilities, and we teach and we're trying to help people, and he said very clearly, he just said, if you really want to help people, you should become an arhat. And it was no judgment, not like sarcastically, but totally clear of like, if you want to help people, you should get fully free from greed, hatred, and delusion. Like, because that's how you really help people. That is the way that you can be the most inspiring and the most, of course, practically helpful as well to people. That's a beautiful charge, that sense of like, right, like that this isn't as much as we may really feel like we have built our lives around practice and around this path, to also see the degrees in which we have to take responsibility for the places where maybe our lives are busier than they need to be, where the responsibilities we carry and accept and take on uh, might actually be keeping us from going quieter. Maybe we are defended against our liberation because we actually are afraid of it, right? Of course we are. All of us have that experience. We want freedom. We feel the burden and the heaviness and the pressure and the tension of all our craziness and all our thinking and our neuroses, and yet we don't always appreciate that they're our most powerful and deeply ingrained defenses, against the lack of controllability in life, right? The reality of the undependability of the nature of things, right? The dukkha, the impermanence, the corelessness. These are the ways that our systems have learned to defend themselves against the wildness of experience, right? The uncontrollability. And so this agenda we think can be sort of arrogant, thinking we know better than our minds. Oh, if our minds would only shut up and we'd only be able to concentrate on this thing, or this thing would stop happening, then we'd be free. But the self doesn't want to be undone, right? The self doesn't see our project as a great idea, you know. It's a terrible idea, right? And it's like the self is this sandcastle, that's like keeps needing to get reaffirmed, 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 and we're like, oh, just let the oceans just like come and go, and it's like, no, you know, that's like a terrible idea. Like, we need to solidify like this ocean, like the waves keep coming. Like, no, so this sense of like, gosh, of course, that there's a way that our project of awakening is a threat to this thing that has protected us and that has stabilized us and that has given us so much. And um, don't we have any appreciation for that? Don't we have any sense of tenderness and carefulness and actually awakening at a pace that our system can integrate, versus awakening with this agenda to just destroy the castle as if that's going to be uh, the experience? The system has to slowly come to trust this process, right? And so there's a dance between our uh, samvega, the spiritual urgency, right? That's so important, and that we need to really recognize and reckon with the places where we are making decisions about our lives that are keeping us from getting more free, and to be honest about that, and to be willing to start to look at those places and shift them. And at the same time, recognize that it's like, okay, we can't just throw ourselves into the ocean, you know. We've all seen some folks kind of get so over enthusiastic in an unbalanced way around the practice of like, oh, I'm just going to go to Asia and become a renunciate, and and seeing that like they haven't actually developed the healthy foundation of dana, of sila, of like the mental stability to allow for that degree of renunciation to be fruitful, right? And so there's a sense of like it's not just a black and white issue. It's like, okay, at this point in our practice, at this point in our lives, how does the rhythm of our life and responsibility, how does it fit our calling to get quieter, to get more free? Do I feel like I'm able to really make progress in this rhythm, right? Sitting regularly, going to maybe coming to the Sunday sittings, maybe doing a retreat or two a year, building it in. Is that working? Do I feel like I'm managing the things that are calling me and my various responsibilities and priorities in life? But to be willing to keep checking in year after year with that and start to be sensitive to the places where it's like, oh, this part of my life is actually keeping me in the loops of samsara that are causing actually more anguish, more frustration, more anxiety, more unskillfulness. And where do I have some possibility of letting go of some of that, perhaps? Ultimately, this question I think is valid of like, are we living the life that an arahant might live, a fully enlightened being? And I think that, especially this day and age, I won't go into a long rant about mindfulness and the role it's playing in the world right now. But it's like it's so incredible that so many people have so much access to like the basic techniques and so many teachings, and there's just like incredible how much is available. And there's a funny thing where it's like there's a lot of places where it is being offered as something that's going to it's like if you add it to your life, it's going to enhance everything and make everything more possible so that you can have it all. Like you can have the family and the perfect job and be a better investor and a better lover and like a cleaner house, and like everything is just going to like totally come together because you're more mindful. And some of those things can happen, right? But it's not, but mindfulness isn't designed for that. Mindfulness isn't designed to make samsara work better and to get you to win at this game, because the game can't be won. That's like baseline fundamental. And that what mindfulness is really designed for, and what ultimately it has the potential to lead to, right, is this complete liberation of heart and mind, and the access to love and tenderness and care regardless of conditions, and all of the wonderful things that we are aware of but sometimes can lose sight of. And so that sense of like, oh right, where are we heeding the call to this deepest potential? And where do we sometimes, are we willing to see that like sometimes mindfulness can make us less functional in the world, right? That it makes us less willing to betray our morals, right? Maybe less willing to betray our like the carefulness of our heart, our caring for ourselves for the sake of other things, right? For the sake of efficiency or for money or for whatever. And that might not actually be that congruent with the sort of society way of life. And where are we willing to sort of also accept those pieces, right? Where mindfulness also can put us on the fringe of things at times, um, and be willing to feel the heartache of that. Find support, of course, in sangha and in people of similar calling, similar appreciations. And no matter what we do, it's not always clear the path. It's still mysterious, the unfolding. It's not like you can just set X, Y, and Z up in your life and then expect to, become enlightened in however many years. There's a funny story I was reminded of, of a very like really highly regarded monk who was familiar with all of the suttas, all of the canon, all of the teachings, and was like the kind of eminent scholar of his time. And you know, nuns and monks and lay people would come to train with him and study under him and learn. And many of them would go on to be very prominent teachers themselves, and many of them would become very awakened. And so one of his students really took his teachings to heart and went to practice, and however long later became a fully realized being, an awakened arahant, and happened to be like a certain kind that had these sort of psychic powers. And he went back to the mind of his teacher, and he realized that his teacher actually was not awakened yet, that actually for all of his knowledge and training and skills, that actually his teacher hadn't just sat down and practiced and done the work to get free. And so he visited him and encouraged him to do it, that he had seen this in his mind. And the teacher took it to heart. I'm sure it was humbling, but the teacher said, I've always just kind of put it off. It's like, I understand it all. And I just feel like okay, you're right. So I'll go to a little kuti, and I'll go spend a weekend there and do my work and, wrap it up. And so goes on retreat for this weekend, and the weekend's over, and he's like, oh man, I need a little longer. That wasn't exactly what I was expecting. And, another week goes by, and it's like, wow, this is really hard. And 2 weeks go by, and months go by. And then finally years have gone by. And this monk is in this kuti, and he just feels like so demoralized, the sense of like, God, I'm so educated, I'm so knowledgeable about all this things, and how have I helped all these people, and then I can't even do it. So he's so worthless, and he just got to such a very powerful overwhelm with those emotions that he broke down just crying, on his kuti. And there was a deva, a guardian angel spirit that noticed him and took compassion on him, had pity on him, and said, "Oh, I'm gonna help this monk." And so the deva went over into the forest a little bit, and he started crying and crying, and so this monk kind of heard this crying over in the forest, and he kind of snapped out of his own conundrum and went to go look, and he saw this just incredible, glorious, radiant deva sobbing over on this rock, and he went up to this deva and he said, what's wrong? What's going on? What's happening? Why are you so upset? And he said, oh, I'm trying to follow the Buddha's teaching. I'm trying to get enlightened. And he said, the monk is like, well, how do you think you're going to get enlightened just sitting there crying? And the deva said, well, that's what you're doing. And it sort of startled him. And he said, oh, okay, right. And they had some kind of conversation about it. And basically he just realized that like he just was thinking too much. He was, and it wasn't his fault. It's like, yes, he had been so skilled at learning the intellectual pieces that it was just like he was very, very much more in his head than any of us could ever imagine being, right? Because it was like he had been such a student in such a detailed way. And so on one hand, you could see that it's like he was up against more around his mind than any of us were, right? And it's trickier and slippier because it's about the Dhamma, right? You think it's the thing that's actually the awakening key, but actually it's, even though it's that close, it's still just thinking. And so it's sad. It's like with that shock and that, they laughed and joked it off, right? But this sense of like, okay, right. It's like just practice, like keep it simple. And it said that within no time at all, this monk became, one of the arahants that fully liberated. And so just that sense of like we don't know how far we have to go in a certain tangle in our minds, right, to reach that point where we're really willing to surrender and be humble in a different way, to some of our patterns, and that really we sometimes need to get to this kind of full place of exasperation before we have some kind of inkling as to like, oh, maybe there's another way, maybe there's something about how we've been approaching it. And that transition can happen so quickly, that you may feel like you're the farthest you've ever been from being enlightened. And it's like you're no judge. There's no way to have perspective on that from where we are in the moment. It's like you can only look back on reflection of like at any moment this sort of shift can happen, right? The literal or the metaphorical devas can come and sort of like, poke us in the place we need to sort of like kind of pay a little more attention to. And it can, you know, open things up very quickly in unexpected ways. And that reminder that we go back out into the world and we're caught up in all these things, and we can feel so distant from our practice, and it can feel like, oh, we have to go on retreat again to these things. And it's like, yes, all of these things are good and important and necessary. And the ultimate truth is like, it's always right there. It's always just about a shift in perspective of watching what's happening. Oh, there's aversion, being honest about it, seeing it, being willing to feel it. And then that's like the liberation is right there. It's not it's not coming out of some other thing that needs to come and enter the field of attention. It's all about how are we relating to what's in the field right now, and seeing that it's like there that we're getting entangled. There's where our dukkha is, and where the potential for freedom opening is. There's another story from the area of um, the Sagaing Hills that we go to in Myanmar, Upper Burma. This is another monastery just kind of on the other direction from Chazwa, where there's a cave, a very quiet, dark, beautiful cave. And this whole area really is filled with caves, and it's partly how it became a spiritual center, was these limestone cliffs, and it was sort of easy to make caves in, and cool in the hot summer months, that renunciates of all kinds could find some protection there. The village that is really the main village of that area is called Wachet, which is comes from the word that means food providers. That's how the first lay people ended up there, was as people who were donating food offerings to the um, monks and nuns and lay renunciates who were um, filling this hillside. And now there's hundreds of nunneries and monasteries and little nooks and crannies. And so there's hundreds and thousands of stories like this. But it was a time where there were these two siblings who were deeply connected also in the Dhamma siblings, and had lived lives in the village, and then became renunciates and took robes in their way, and had lived however many years in that way, and had gotten to a point in their practice where they both really felt like they needed to go to a sort of deeper stage of seclusion in order to finish their spiritual work. Just that so important, right? It's not like we needed to just take robes and go into a cave and finish our work there. It's like there's an understanding of like the pacing, and getting a sense of like, oh, okay, at this point we're both ready, and we actually need just like a little more quietude and seclusion in order to untangle these last little filaments of um, identification and contraction in the heart. And so they both set up in two separate caves across a valley from one another, where they made the commitment that if either one of them were to get fully enlightened, that that evening they would light a lantern at the entrance of their cave, so that their sibling, their Dhamma sibling across the valley would see it and be inspired for their own practice. And so the weeks and months went by, and however long it took for their practice to unfold and deepen, one evening as the sun was setting, uh, one of these siblings attained that final awakening, that final unbinding from greed, hatred, and delusion into that just open, peaceful, spacious awareness of being. And aware that this had happened, and with immediate care um, for their sibling across the hill, across the valley, they remembered their responsibility and immediately went to light their candle and place it right at the entrance of the cave. And immediately as they did it and lit the candle, lit the lantern, they looked across the valley and saw their Dhamma siblings' lantern also alight at the same moment. There's something so important about spiritual friendship, so mysterious, deeply honored in the cultures in which this tradition practices are rooted. Mm, Not always so here in the West, or it can get confused with other aspects and qualities of relationship and what community means that we value. But this understanding that these commitments that we make for ourselves and the commitments that we make together are karmically entwined um, in very mysterious and beautiful and powerful ways is of fundamental importance, even if we don't always understand it, that we know we are practicing with others. This technology has provided such an interesting opportunity for us, that while at one hand we know that we are in whatever room we're in alone, more or less, and yet we also know that we're with other people. And there's something very powerful about that reminder and that lived experience and that affirmation. And of course, we hope that like once the Zoom shuts off and the computer closes and we shut it all down, that that awareness is still there. That when you're sitting or when you're doing your walking practice, that you know that you are with others, right? Actually, that countless others at any given moment who are also practicing, who are also with you, who are also committing along with you to this liberation. To feel that support, even if it's not always immediately available, even if your computer is not, even if you're not on retreat or in your sangha physically, you know that there is this community out there, and letting the heart bolster you when it recognizes that, and knowing that you are a part of bolstering other people, that your efforts in whatever unseen ways are supporting the practice of other people. 100%, no doubt. And I just felt like I wanted to end with a few other short poems from Stonehouse. These are part of a series, and I'll just read them. You can take them in. Below high cliffs, I slash and I burn. There's vegetables and grain to boil and steam, to satisfy the present, to brighten old age. Looking at a tree in the yard, I count its falls and springs. Below high cliffs, tigers and snakes are my neighbors. Once I forgot my mind, their natures suddenly became tame. People born in this world all have something divine. Mouths of teeth, heads of hair. Why can't they be kind? Below high cliffs, unaware of the source, wherever you turn is karma, chaos, and confusion. In order to see the truth, look beyond your senses. It's always been this way. The spring flows all around you. Below high cliffs, serene in solitude, not visited by time, the mind creates the world. The window holds a setting moon. The stove contains a dying fire. Pity the sleeping man startled from his butterfly dream. Below high cliffs, I face 1,000 mountains. One sense finds the source, and all six relax. White clouds drift, green water ripples. Beyond movement and stillness, there is another world. Stephen has offered to lead us in a little sharing of the merit practice to gather this collective energy and force of our time together and to dedicate it toward goodness in the world. So I'll hand it over to Steve.
Connected, everyone can hear. Okay. Beautiful Dhamma. Thank you, Jesse. Bringing everyone together is precisely what our practices are meant to do, and to acknowledge and appreciate how that is so, how we have been here to help our hearts open and purify our hearts, but by natural extension, help everyone else's hearts soften, purify, and open, to feel the poignancy, the impact of that interrelated co-practices or practices of the boundless, measureless Brahma Viharas and the liberating insight. So to share merit is one way of acknowledging that indeed every moment and the life of our practice is meant to help all beings everywhere. By design, not simply for our own liberation, but energetically to support in body, heart, mind, everyone's journey toward freedom, toward awakening. In practice, it could look like a few different ways. So every time you give a gift, food, friendship, finances, kind words to someone hurting, expressing your appreciation of their goodness, their creativity, their fulfillment with joy. all the forms of our practices are expressed knowingly or unknowingly all the time. So wisdom is enhanced when we understand and appreciate that, and when we have the intention to extend the very conditions that help our own generosity, kindness, and wisdom toward others. If only imagining that somewhere, somehow, someplace nearby or far, far away, unimaginable other side of the universe, it can be helped, that energy is instantly spread throughout the galaxies. So very simply, here together, just as we might when we very mindfully give a gift with wisdom, where we're not attached to ourselves as giver, to the person as the receiver, or even to the gift itself. But understand the greatness of giving, the depth and the power of giving. Likewise, when we do that out of our Brahmavihara heart, in love, in kindness, in care, in joy, in equanimity, and how wisdom works through our body-mind systems as we move through every day. So at any time, anywhere, bringing that wisdom awareness to our acts is a transfer of merit. And so traditionally, we have been ending retreats just by summarizing everything we've been doing into this few-minute meditation, where we call up into our awareness and feel in grace and gratitude and appreciation the accumulated meritorious force called punya, powerful, positive, skillful, energetic qualities of the heart. We call up the generosity and feel the emotion of that in the heart. We call up the Brahmavihara mind and feel the beauty, brightness, the immeasurability right now in the heart. And we call up all of our insight, accumulated, intuitive understanding, and feel that here and now in the heart. And then very naturally extend it. Perhaps the first person who comes to your mind is the first person we extend it to. May the power of my practices of generosity, kindness, and wisdom help you in body and mind on your journey of awakening. And then widening the spread of that energetic aura of meritorious actions, the fruits, the benefits to friends, family, the immediate community or sangha. May the fruits of my practice be shared with and support body, mind, spirit, this grouping of beings, human, non-human, life forces, life energies. I share unconditionally the fruits of my practices with these beings. May it lead them to their own wisdom within, to the point of full liberation. And creatively, however else you would like to do it, perhaps ultimately have a felt sense of our Milky Way home galaxy and the billions, 100 to 500 billion other galaxies in the known universe. All the life forms, forces, entities, this sense of immeasurable gifting of our practice fruits. May all beings everywhere, living and departed, throughout the space-time continuum, may they benefit from my freely offered accumulated positive forces of generosity, of kindness and care, and of the understanding that sets us free. May it bring all beings everywhere to awakening, to liberation. I honor the goodness, the beauty, the worthiness in all of your hearts. Thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Michelle, and thank you, dear yogis, for your practice.
Thank you, Steve and Jesse, and all the yogis. Metta blessings. Thank you for your practice. It was a great retreat.
Yeah. A wonderful team. Thank you guys. And thanks everyone here. Just really, really wonderful. Don't, not, we know we're still going to do the metta chanting next. So everyone is still welcome to come to that. But we know not everyone is able to make it every night. But just thank you everyone for keeping showing up and just that continuity and sense of solidity every day. It's really been very powerful, very palpable, and of just unbelievable encouragement and support. I know we've all like really, the three of us have felt really quiet and supported and able to kind of really practice ourselves in a way that's really been wonderful during this time. So I think we've all needed it, given everything. So feels very
Post-election.
nourishing. Post everything.
Settling in.
Mm. And so if you want, you can feel free to leave a little message for everyone in the chat room, or you can unmute yourselves and just say a quick word of kindness or offering to folks, of course, as we take a few minutes extra to just, end our time here, but we will still get together at 4 o'clock for the metta chant.
Let's chant the metta chant together. Mm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Steve and Jesse. It's been a beautiful retreat, and to all the Sangha, blessings to everyone.
Thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda.
Much gratitude for your generosity
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Renee. Thank you, Renee. All the beautiful things people are writing. Thank you. Saying.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Michelle. Jesse, thank you. It's been such an honor to sit with all of you, all yogis included. And Jesse, this is my first opportunity to sit on retreat with you and just to experience the three of you interweaving together is a true honor, blessing, gift. Such an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. May we carry, I'm feeling emotional, but thank you. May we carry the energy of this retreat into our lives and into the world.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
So beautiful to be with everyone. And I missed you when I was in Europe and couldn't be there in the Sunday sittings. And I'm really looking forward to being there again next Sunday. Thank you for everything.
Thanks.
Does Esteban have anything to say?
Let's see here. Esteban? Thank you all. He's had a great time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
When I signed up for this retreat many months ago, it was a very different world than it is now. And I could never have imagined how amazing this would be. Jesse, I'm speaking especially to Jesse because it started out to be Jesse's residential retreat. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you to everybody from down under. The schedule's upside down for me, effectively, because it starts at midnight.
Oh.
It's been great to attend basically 2 sessions every day. And recordings have been wonderful. And I listened to the Dhamma talk before going to bed. And I've had the best sleep I've had for several days, for several weeks.
Thanks, Richard. I've been thinking of you doing the midnight practice.
Oh, yeah.
Molly and Cindy, I think you're in the same room. One of you should turn your mic on.
I've so appreciated this so deeply every single day. All three of you offer such insightful wisdom. And I just wanted to give a special call out to my spiritual friend, Sue, living next door, and we're doing this together. So it deepens this entire experience and will carry on. Thank you so, so very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. Sheila here. I just wanted to say heartfelt gratitude, metta. It's been a very beautiful retreat. And I'm sending you these wishes from Quadra Island, just to remind you of Hollyhock Day, where I first met you. So I have very fond memories of that, and I'm hoping that maybe we'll meet again on Cortez someday. So
may it be so.
May it be so. Many blessings. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Michelle and Stephen, of course, and Jesse, who I actually haven't met, but I really, really appreciate all your teaching. It's Karen. I'm here from Katoomba in the Blue Mountains in Australia.
That's great.
And we miss you all so much here. That, you know, I'm finding it sort of hard to speak. You know, we've had a lot of time on our own this year, and it's been wonderful as well as challenging. But I really, really appreciate everything that you've done for us over the last little while. Hopefully we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
This is Fred from Maine, sending a deep bow to all three teachers and all in the Sangha. The three of you weave an incredible tapestry, different colors, different sounds, but the effect of the joint creation is really quite beautiful and magnificent. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred.
Eileen, hi from New Mexico. And we miss you here, but I'm really happy to say that this feels almost as powerful as having you here at Vallecitos. Thank you.
Hi, it's Billie Jean from Lanai.
Yay.
We miss you guys. Yeah, miss you, Jess. Wish you guys were over here, and thanks so much for everything. Yeah, Stephen, you set me on the path long ago, and Michelle and Jesse just took up the reins, and it's been awesome. So thank you so much.
We're waving to you over there.
We'll paddle over one day and quarantine canoe.
Did Cynthia or Molly want to speak? I don't know if they want to try again.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, so much. I don't think I could have survived COVID without your teachings and without having you in my pocket and in my ears all the time. So you are true devas, true guardian angels that continue to protect us, and it's amazing to have the technology where you're just literally in my ears. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Geeta.
Thanks, Geeta.
I'd like to.
Let's just echo.
Thank you for the lovely healing retreat.
Thanks, Molly.
I am so profoundly grateful for this and the Sundays. And Michelle, someday I'm going to meet you in person. Stephen and Jesse, so great to have this connection with both of you again. I'm going to take the morning walking practice. I'm in Hawaii also, so 6 a.m. That's going to be part of my daily practice of love. So thank you for getting me started. That was a beautiful thing to feel.
This is Francis from Cambridge, Massachusetts. And
Right.
This reminds me of when we have retreats here, we go around the circle and everybody says a few words at the end. So this is called me up to speak. But Michelle, Stephen, and Jesse, thank you so much. I had planned to meet you originally in May at Berry. And as you remember, that was canceled and we did the first online there. So that's how I got the introduction. And I want to thank my friend Kathleen for telling me about this retreat. So it was good. And Jesse, I was very relieved that the final Dharma talk did not convey the seriousness that the last online one did, because there was so much turmoil going on that we were going back into. So I'm I'm pleasantly pleased about that. But this retreat was just what I needed to hear, and on many levels, it was extremely excruciating on a few days and amazingly pleasant other days. So I think that's just par for the course. But thank you all, and thank you everybody on the retreat. You guys were great. Thanks.
Sun, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I would like to thank Steve, Michelle, and you, Jessie, and everyone. I didn't know that sitting online in Zoom still have I still feel a strong support. It's much different than when I'm practicing home by myself. And also I love the 6 a.m. walking, so I will keep that too. Thank you for making this happen.
Thanks, Sun.
Thanks, Sun. Thanks.
Thanks, Tan.
I just want to say thank you so much. This has been such a gift that I can't describe. And you know, when I met the three of you several years ago, and when I left those retreats, actually felt quite moved on so many levels, but also sad because I didn't quite think I would get to connect with you again. So just so full of gratitude for that. The way that you hold the teachings and transmit the Dhamma touches my heart so deeply. Thank you so very much. And so grateful for everyone here for sitting with me.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam.
I'm Jean from Princeton, Mass. And yeah, right near Barrie. So I can drive by, but you can't go in right now. You know, my husband and I often will drive by like the Walmart parking lot, you know, on a beautiful Saturday, and it's just jammed, right, with, you know, rows and rows of cars. And then we'll go walking in, you know, a beautiful park, and there's just nobody there. I feel the same about this retreat. It's like there should be 5,000 people on this retreat, you know, and yet I'm so grateful that there isn't, because it feels very intimate and very cozy and really luscious. It's as everyone has said, the potency of the teachings. I've been practicing, you know, for a long time and for a day, right? I love the phrase you used, Michelle, like you just, you know, you're always kind of sitting for the first time or walking for the first time. You said it differently, but that idea. So I'm leaving feeling a lot like David, who, you know, is having his first retreat. I feel like the instructions are so, there's so much to unfold and unpack, so much appreciation for the multifaceted Dhamma, how beautiful, how reflective it is of every little aspect of our inner and outer universe. And I do appreciate how much thoughtfulness went into this. I can see the evolution since the first online retreat that you offered. Like everything that was offered was rethought and considered carefully. So there's so much appreciation for that. And such a Sangha. It's true, like so many days I just wouldn't have shown up if I didn't know that you'd be watching my legs walking past maybe, or I'd be watching your legs walking past the screen. So thank you, everyone.
Oh, Donna, did you wanna? Here we go.
Hi, thank you. This is my first retreat with all of you, and I want to express my gratitude. I first heard about Michelle through Chris and Megan in Canada, who I've been studying with for a while, off and on. This retreat was hard for me. I think because I got to a point of relaxation where I realized that I'm carrying a lot more pain and doing so much thinking while I'm in the house. It sort of made me more aware of the suffering that I have while I'm home. So I guess just opening to compassion for myself in that regard. I relate to the story of the crying monk. I had one teacher tell me her experience of crying with towels because it's more environmentally friendly. And that's how I sometimes approach these moments with towels. I guess another thing that I really appreciated was hearing the sounds of people as we were walking in the morning. It made me feel the presence of the Sangha without having to have my eyes glued to the screen. So thank you for that. Blessings.
Thank you. I think we all can relate to that monk crying on us too at some point. So yeah, thank you.
Many times. Carol.
Carol, I'm sorry, I just muted you by accident. Ask when I thought I was asking.
It's the story of my life. I am in Stillwater, Minnesota, which means I have to fly to any retreat that I go to. I was with you, Jesse, and Michelle in Honolulu in 2014. As I recall, that was about a 6 or 7 hour journey to get there.
Must have
So
been the
thank you.
Honolulu retreat.
Thank you for making this so accessible and for being willing to tread new ground. A couple of my takeaways are that at times it feels like I know more than I thought I did. And at other times it feels like I know nothing. So I've got a lifetime of work to do. But an interesting takeaway that just came upon me today is that normally when I leave one of these retreats that I fly to, it's like that container is in the rear view mirror. And then when I get home, I have to make a concerted effort to weave the teachings and the practices into my life. But now the three of you and all the other members of the Sangha are here in my house. And when I get up tomorrow morning, I can do my practices with the sense of all of you being right here with me. And to me, that is one of the most beautiful things I can think of to take away from this. Thank you so much.
Carol.
Are we ready? I just want to say thank you so much to all three of you, but especially when you came on board in, what was it, May? You've been such a lifesaver through COVID. There have been, I haven't been able to go to my mom's. I've been able to cross the border. There are things that, I'd really like to be able to do, but I can't do. And it means a lot to be in my home and have the three of you here and to offer the teachings. Sundays have been a staple. You know, I really try not to miss any Sundays. And it means a lot to me that you offer these retreats and that I have the continuity of staying with the three of you. It's, you know, I really appreciate what you've offered. And I have big thanks to Tom downstairs, who has done all of the cooking.
Wow.
And he's taken good care of me. And with the size of the house, I've been able to remove myself from the television set. So I have this perfect little container up here. And anyway, thank you very much to all three of you and to the Sangha. A lot of you I see on Sundays and I've seen in other retreats, and there's really, for me, there's been a developing continuity. And so thank you to everybody. Oh, and one more thing. The question and answers have been amazing. I've gotten something out of everyone who's asked questions. Thanks.
Okay.
Everybody.
Thanks, Carol.
Maybe we'll just take a moment of silence to take all that in, all that goodness. And of course, the change.
I have to say something.
Great.
I have to apologize because I'm not supposed to talk because I only paid for part-time, and I've been coming just about all the time. So I promise I'll give a good donation. I'm Vanessa and I live in Toronto, and I have been to Jesse in Ottawa. I can't remember, a couple of years ago, and then in the spring I remember I was on retreat with you and I was going through a bit of a hard time, but I just wanted to thank you so much, and it's nice to meet you, Stephen, and all you yogis that I often see on Sunday. And I'd like to make a special thanks to my friend Kathy, who I know is here somewhere. She's the little baseball person when she's not in present. And she was the one that first said, you've got to come and listen to Michelle, Vanessa. And I haven't regretted it at all. So thank you so much. And I do apologize for cheating. And I wasn't planning to come to the whole thing. That's why. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose.
Yeah, it's fine. And the space is open. This is not, yeah.
Yeah, I am sorry. So I hope you'll be back soon, and I'll pay for the whole thing, because now I know I'm going to come to the whole thing. Sorry, I can't shut up, can I?
We're glad you come.
I know what Kathy's going to say when she calls me tomorrow. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I just want to add before we end that the surprising, wonderful aspect of this pandemic and being online and us doing the Sunday sittings and these retreats is that we get the continuity with you. It's also, it's reciprocal that we appreciate. Steve and Jesse and I talk about it a lot, how meaningful and important it is. And so again, taking refuge in the Sangha.
Take care, everyone, and come join us for the metta chant and sit.
Yes, it's the most beautiful choir.